the name Yah, right? Let's put Yah in there, and we're going to press for a search. We're going to press the search button, and we're looking for the name Yah. All right, look what pops up. Naomi, Emya, Inya, Yahoo, Akeya, Hanya, Henya, Benia. So they say, hold up. All these guys got theophoric names. They are Hebrews. I'm going to press on one. As you see, I'm doing it live so everybody could see. Everybody could see the page, right? Let me look. Everybody could see it. Good. I want y'all to pay attention right now. You see the name Nyamoli, right? 27, 65 inches. It's a man from the Igbo tribe. He came on the ship Anna Maria, 1821. Slavery was already done in the United States and in England. So there was an illegal slave trade still going on. So the embarkation is Bonnie. That's where they came on, right? He came on a boat. And this embarkation is in Freetown. He never came to the West, right? Now look at this right now. Let's go to the records of where the name originated. And I'm doing this live so nobody could say Garfield is making up shit. I want y'all to pay attention. This is how the name appears on the registers. I want y'all to look at this. Look at this, family. Look at this. Look at the names on the registers. You see this? Let me make it bigger so the people could see. It comes out as Noamabe, or Nyamoli, or Nyamayoli. Now the first name is, hear how it sounds. Oh, I can't play it here on my computer. They don't have Flash installed. But Nyamabe is not Nyamobe. You see that? The person now who listens to the name probably was a Jew. He said, okay, well, let's look at who was all on board with Nyamobe at the same time. You're going to see a list right now. Look at this, family. See, Garfield is a researcher. And the answer was right there. These are the people that's on the boat with them. So you see the name has different variations. Nyamabe, Nyamoli. None of them say Yahweh in it. The person now who comes on the scene and try to understand the name said it was, what was the name that we saw? Let's go back. So you know Garfield ain't lying. Let's go back to the African names. See? Nyamoli. So you're going to jump up, and I hope everybody who is watching understands what I am doing. You see the name of the slave voyage? It said Nyamoli. Nyamoli. Okay? Nyamoli from the Igbo tribe. Came on the Anna Maria ship. Never came to America. There goes the name right there. There's no Yah in the name when it first originally appears in the registers. Eventually, it says Naya with the Yah in it because it has to do with pronunciation and who is writing it. Because there have people who work for this company right here, right? What they do is they hire anybody off the street and say, can you pronounce this name for us? So the person come in and say, oh, it has the Yah element in it. So they might be Hebrew. That was not in the name originally. So I want to make it clear. I didn't plan this. I'm just showing an example with the first one. I picked the first one so that you guys could see it live and see that what Garfield is talking about. The names don't sound like that. Somebody gave them that name. So they can't use this. And by the way, these people went to Freetown. All right.
Garfield.
So we're going to get off that for a little bit. What's up, brother?
You said something that was interesting when you were going through where these people were located from and the tribe. You mentioned Igbo. So this was a way to tie in Jews and Igbo as well. The argument that they try to make that they're Igbo.
Not necessarily. What they were trying to do is make anybody who comes from Africa, trying to align them, because a number of them came from Calabar, Freetown. I mean, not Freetown, I'm sorry. From Bonnie. They came from several different places. And what happened is, it's a rare incident where you find the name Yah. It's very rare. It's over 800 times. So you're talking about 800 into over 12 million people is really a dot. Why is it only 800 people were Hebrews? You know what I'm saying? So I just want to make it clear to everybody out there, listen to another perspective. There's nobody, no folkways, no norms, no traditions, no folkways, no mores, none of that stuff that you can find in these cultures that makes them Hebrew. You can't find that. You find Hebrews that went to Timbuktu and there's manuscripts there, but the manuscripts have nothing to do with the Bible. It has to do with trade. People need to understand that. So Hashar got misinformation. And any day he want to come on the show, we good to go. I ain't got time for the back and forth, but you know, y'all know what Garfield is all about. We're all about the truth. And if I'm wrong, family, I'm ready to say that I'm wrong. I'm willing to say I'm wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. Okay, you want to go into the 70-80 exile myth.
Peace and good evening to everyone that's listening. I'm in a troll mood today. This is episode 6, Black People Stop Lying. And somebody hit me up and asked me a question. What happened to Hashar? I said, Hashar's in the streets, man. A lot of people telling me back and forth that they see him or whatever. He's not really into the debating stuff, but I do want to call him out because for years, back in 2017, we had a conversation about the decrees. And the day before, he made a comment about slaves coming off the slave ships. Because y'all know Garfield made a claim that no one can show a slave coming off a ship saying he's a Hebrew, he's a Jew, he's an Israelite, or actually showing the culture. One of the things was the Yah stuff. You know, and that's easily cleared up. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not going to be long today, but I do want to point out something, right? There was a situation where the brother said he wanted to answer and said, Garfield, they had a 3-on-3 event when Hashar, Gorilla Hebrew, and Divine Prospect brought out some information. And it was Jabari, Reggie, and who else? But me and Robon got to speak. And we said, y'all can't show nobody coming off the slave ships, right? That's where Reggie jumped out the window with Ola Uda Equiano. Got smacked up at Jabari's house. But Hashar wanted to answer the question. His answer was a guy by the name of Samuel Walcowski. Samuel Walcowski, all right? And I want you guys to pay attention to the name because his whole premise is that guy was in America and he was a Jew and he was black. But the issue is the question asks, and you got to be fair. What you want me to say? What you want me to say one more time, Judah Redemption? Peace and love to you, by the way, brother. I'm saying that no one came off a slave ship and identified themselves as a Hebrew, an Israelite, or a Jew who was a slave, one of the slaves. They didn't call themselves that. They didn't consider themselves to be Jewish. That's something that they developed. Hashar, in our conversations that we've had, are what he has thrown his word at, you know, because they don't want to have a dialogue with Garfield. So now when me and Priest Daniela is supposed to have a debate, I just have a strange feeling something's going to happen and the debate can't happen because this is a major blow for Hebrew Israelites. Like, well, if King James is not black and he's white, that don't stop salvation. No, it continues the legacy of misinformation that one Westers teach. And this is huge. Remember, they were going around saying that the world is going to end the year 2000, and they were actually out on the streets teaching that. So it's a prophecy by Ariah. So that's a part of their teachings. I mean, of course, some people make some excuse and say, why it didn't happen? The people didn't want to listen and whatever. But that should have been the end of One West right there. Because anyone that comes with a false prophecy according to Deuteronomy 18, verses 18 to 22, you should, I think it says something, you should kill that false prophet, or if the word comes out of his mouth that's not from God and it turns out it's not from God, you shouldn't listen to anything. That was my premise in the 12 tribe chart debate with Guerrilla Hebrew. But back to Hashar. So we had a conference in August 2017, and he basically said that I'm going to respond to Garfield and Rawbone. He ain't really responded because, you know, usually when me and Rawbone are outside, people more think of me as the guy who wants to debate all the time or whatever at that time. So now he makes a claim of Samuel Walcowski. And I want y'all to listen to a piece, just a little piece of what he said, or of what he stated, I should say. All right, let me see if I could find. Actually, I should have played AOC's video, you know. Let me see which video I'm going to play. Yes, let me play it. This is an old video that was made over 6 years ago. But I want y'all to look at this right here. So I just want to give context to the claim. The claim is that Samuel Walcowski fulfills that conversation. Here we go. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Let's see if I could find it. And there's a brother that he had on the other day too that I like, man. I love his information on the calendars. I need to be having some good guests, man. Then you have this crippled dude talking about how Garfield running from him. And you know, I always say, if the Most High work for you and you get put in a wheelchair, why the Most High ain't make you walk again? If your Most High got power. Because your Most High don't have no power. Not one drop of power.
Says bias, search, interpretation, and memory have been invoked to explain attitude polarization. And here's what happens. When disagreement becomes more extreme, even though the different parties are exposed to the same evidence. So they get the same evidence and they start pointing out things that are not there. And that's what Garfield does. That's what he did with my brother, Priest Daniel Hollander. That's what he did with me a year ago. All right? He does that with everybody. Let's go to the next slide. Okay? So now this is getting in your head so you can understand how he operated. Confirmatory bias is a tendency to emphasize and believe experiences which support one's views and to ignore or discredit those which do not. The effects of this tendency have been have been repeatedly documented in clinical research. I went there for a reason, because you can go and type up M. Springer, and what they deal with scientific research that different scientists pull and then peer review. And if it don't match what another scientist say, they get mad at it. And that's confirmatory bias. And this is what Garfield does, okay? So it's clinically researched that this is a problem that people have. So that nigga got a sickness. You understand? That's a sickness. Go to the next one.
You're the good, man. He got a sickness.
I'm gonna show where this nigga had that sickness at.
Look at that.
Huh?
Mm-hmm.
He's a biased tongue. He's a dark. He's a liar. Because you're going to find out.
He's a liar.
Go to the video. Okay? He pulled out this newspaper clipping. It said the Queen City's visitor, a native African who was deaf, dumb, and reads Hebrew and says he's a Jew. I did not pull that day. I pulled this one. It's a totally different paper. You understand? It says the Negro who can write. We all that now. It says, let's pump that up. Come on. Blow it up. It says the Negro who can write Hebrew. All right? This is from a different paper altogether. This was published in September 19th, right? This was April 8th, okay, in Cumberland, Maryland. These two different things. Go to the next slide. Come on. Juxtaposition of the articles in question, are they totally different articles? This was in the Houston Daily Post, September 20th, 1897, right? Guess what? This came out later. The Jewish South, October 14th, 1898. Now, these are different articles from that article that was supposed to go ahead and say the same thing about a different man. Right? Let's go to the next slide, just to see. Because we're going to get into detail. Because the Negro who wrote Hebrew, the one that I pulled out, it said that what? He spoke what? Lashawan Kodash. Then down here, it says right here, Lashawan Kodash. Now, if you read the article, the man expressed that he had spoke Hebrew. Okay? And then it said he also writes fluently Lashawan Kodash. Now, how do we know that one, these articles are different? Two, that this is very prominent. And we have to understand the prominence of this article. Why? Because so-called Jews don't speak Lashawan Kodash. You understand? They speak what? Hebrew, modern Hebrew, and they speak the Yiddish. So this is why this was a marvel. It was a wonder. That's why they had to put this in the paper. You go to the article that he pulled out that wasn't there. Now, in that article, go back to that article because he loves to say this. His name was Wolkowski. He was talking like this, right? You know, matter of fact, you don't even gotta go there. Go up to the next one. He loved this part. Go to the next one. Samuel Wolkowski. That's why I'm gonna point out all the differences that he made. Now, he said that how he was taught, right? Samuel Wolkowski. They was taught by a white man. Let's just see one error that was in there. This article states only 3,000 tribe members. That's what that man said. Okay, it says, you do the math, 20,000 compared to 3,000. Notice no mention of speaking Lashawan Kodash. That's not in this article. In the other article, the man gives a different number of the people that were there. 20,000 people, and he says the tribe and how they were all taught. And he was taught by his father. Okay, his father was a priest, was a rabbi. Okay? So when the man lied, man, he said, you see this article? Oh, this is what the Hebrews do. I gotta go to that video and see that. I had to walk down at that point and just stay outside. You understand? Because I operate differently when niggas start doing something.
I want you to pay attention now. Now here goes the thuggy talk. So now I had to walk outside. No, me and Rawbone confronted you. Rawbone confronted you and told you about the article and that you are wrong about Samuel Walcowski. And sometimes when brothers are studying and we want to be right, both of us was actually talking past each other. Because the conversation really, anyhow, Samuel Walcowski could speak Yiddish or Lashawan Kodash or whatever. The issue was really if he was a slave that came off the slave ships. That's the issue. And we kept talking past that issue. So the issue I should have been arguing is, did he come over on a slave ship? I'm not arguing whether he could be Samuel Walcowski from Egypt or Ethiopia, because obviously this dude, he was a flim-flammer. He was a scam artist. The dude, I'm talking about the dude here. But let's listen to what he said again, Mr. Gangster Hashar.
He loved this part. Go to the next one. Samuel Wolkowski. That's why I'm going to point out all the differences that he made. Now, he said that how he was taught, right? Samuel Wolkowski. They were taught by a white man. Let's just see one error that was in there. This article states only 3,000 tribe members. That's what that man said. Okay, it says, you do the math, 20,000 compared to 3,000. Notice no mention of speaking Lashawan Kodash. That's not in this article. In the other article, the man gives a different number of the people that were there. 20,000 people, and he says the tribe and how they were all taught. And he was taught by his father. Okay, his father was a priest, was a rabbi. Okay? So when the man lied, man, he said, you see this article? Oh, this is what the Hebrews do. I gotta go to that video and see that. I had to walk down at that point and just stay outside. You understand? Because I operate differently when niggas start doing stuff like that.
Don't worry, we're going to have a video coming up with him beside me. Watch what he does when I'm actually beside him.
You understand? Let's go to the next one. Come on. So now, just to show you what the difference is with Lashawan.
All right. Let's take a look at this carefully here. All right. And by the way, when somebody writes something about being a Jew, by the way, is True Story in the audience? What True Story that? It's True Story in the audience. True Story. What's the name of the guy?
The name of the Jew, the fake Jew. Do you have it in your files? Everybody was claiming to be a Jew at one point. But anyway, let's deal with this information right here. I'm gonna go to newspapers.com and I'm gonna deal with him lovely. This is the Jewish South article that the dude was reading from, right? I want y'all to pay attention to this carefully. Walcowski tells an interesting story of his origin. He has 2 living children, both girls and both black. His family is still in Egypt. And the rabbis of New York's ghetto say that what he tells of his ancestry is borne out by ancient history. Walcowski's ancestors were slaves to the patriarchs, the father of the race being the head servant of Abraham's house. These slaves followed Jacob's son to Egypt 3,000 years ago. So they weren't Hebrews. And when the Jews were delivered from Egypt's tyranny, they went with them across the Red Sea into the wilderness. So obviously they're not bloodline, first of all. They became converted. See, key word. They became converted to Judaism. How come you didn't read that part, Mr. Honest? And helped to drive the Philistines and the Hittites and other idol worshippers from the land of Canaan. But a strange freak of fate landed the Negro Jews, who were at odds with their white brethren, back into the land of the Pharaohs, where they were treated with superstitious kindness by the Egyptians, who feared another outpouring of the wrath of the God of Israel. They settled in the northeastern part of Egypt, where for more than 2,500 years they have lived in seclusion, their whereabouts unknown to the Hebrews of Palestine and other countries. Samuel Wolkowski says that his people have adhered with scrupulous strictness to the tenets of the Abrahamic faith. The Macomba tribe at present numbers 3,000 souls. Like their white brethren, they keep the Sabbath on Saturday, beginning on Friday, evening at sundown. All their meats and articles of food are kosher, and their vernacular is partly pure Hebrew and partly the jargon. Wolkowski is a Hebrew scribe, and he came to this country to better his condition. All right. Very interesting article. Very interesting article. Very interesting. Very interesting article. Huh. Sometimes you got to wonder if it's just too good to be true. Right? All right. Okay, this is how the article had started, by the way. Okay. He hails from Macomba, right? Okay. Let's go to this right here for a second. This is September 23rd. Yet another American discovery. Let's look at what this article says now. Come on, Daniela. Tell Hashar to watch. Yet another American discovery. There's a young Negro in New York whose name is Samuel Walcowski, 33 years of age, a native of Macomba. Wakanda, Macomba. In northeastern Egypt, he's a descendant of Eleazar, the servant of Abraham. So he's not bloodline at all. He's not even a real Israelite, Hebrew, whatever. All right. All right. So Hebrew, partly Hebrewish, The latter, they recently learned from white Jewish settlers, the older people only speak the language of the Bible. There are about 3,000 of these Negro Jews in Macomba. How they should have kept their presence a secret is not explained. Still, there's only one difficulty ahead with this story. The index of the best maps of Egypt know not such a place as Macomba. To say the least, further information is desirable. So why would you rush and believe a story about a guy in 1897 who didn't come over on a slave ship, by the way, which don't apply to the conversation that he was addressing? Secondly, you say he come from Macomba. You heard it, Macomba? Ladies and gentlemen, is there any place by the name of Macomba in the history of this planet that we call the Earth? The dude made the shit up. He made the shit up. You guys play too many games. It's called Hebrew Scholastic Sham. Let's deal with this article now. There's another article. This is just to show you that people used to go around and talk about their Jews. Actually, this is the wrong one, but let me read this one anyway. His name is Bata Lobagola. Yeah, I'm not gonna I'm not even gonna stay on live long, but again, I even addressed it back in 2017 that that's not even the issue. We're both talking past each other for no reason. The issue is this gentleman, is he who he says he is? All right. Now, if he's able to speak and write, well, I don't. They said he's deaf and dumb. I don't know how they were communicating with him to know what he could speak, because that don't make any sense. But Samuel Wolkowski, right? I have a couple of articles on my slides where I could actually point out who he is and all that stuff, and to. It's actually Makamba with a K. He said that's where he's from. Makamba, it doesn't exist in Egypt. It's a place. And by the way, too, I'm gonna get into something when I'm going through this article just to prove a point. Again, me and Hashar are talking past each other because whether he could read Hebrew, whether I use the article from April 1897 and he used one from April 1897 and I use one from September or October 97 is irrelevant. So he's calling me a lie. I'm not offended. Not offended at all. I'm saying we are both talking past each other when the issue is, was he a slave that came off a slave ship? That's the issue. That's what we're talking about. A lot of times we get heated conversations and we really talk past each other. So this is one of the articles. And by the way, too, some articles say he comes from Ethiopia. He's connected to Ethiopia, and some articles say he comes from Egypt. Where does he come from? Depending on what story he's telling. But anyway, he speaks and writes Hebrew and claims the Jewish as his faith. Now, that's an issue that I never really realized up until now, 2025. I thought he was deaf and dumb. So he was going around and acting like he was deaf and dumb, but he could write the Hebrew. Very interesting. So this is why this ended up wrong for him. But we're going to get to that in a minute. He speaks and writes Hebrew and claims the Jewish as his faith. He's well up in the grips of the Masonic and Oddfellows order, a deserter from a ship at Newport News, Virginia. Goldsboro, North Carolina, December 29th. Our city has had a novelty in the shape of a Negro Jew who put in his appearance here yesterday, and as he was fully acquainted with Masonic and Oddfellow grips, he was taken in charge by colored Masons and Oddfellows, and being of the Jewish faith, he did not fail to have the attention of all Israelites. The surprise to the Israelites was that he could write and speak the Hebrew language fluently. I thought he was deaf and dumb. Hey, maybe I read that somewhere, and maybe I'm mistaking him for somebody else. And that he was circumcised and was fully in the faith of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He was from Africa, that part bordering on Abyssinia. I thought he was from Egypt. So in this tradition, he's in Ethiopia. He's a sailor and came here from Newport News, having deserted his ship there because of the abuse of his captain. Readers of history will recall that at the destruction of Jerusalem, the Jews in quite large numbers went into Africa, and their religion in a great measure was adopted by the inhabitants of that part of Africa. They made up to a short time ago 45,000 converts of Ethiopians or Negroes, and hence it is that we have a Negro of that ancient faith among us. Now, bear in mind, remember, they said he was 33 years old in one of the articles. I think I read it a while ago. 33 from 97 would be what? That would be 1864. Slavery is done. Slavery is abolished. Slave trade is stopped. There's no more slaves being transported. The conversation should have been like, this is not a good source to make your argument, Hashar. Who is telling Hashar in his ears, this is not a good argument? And Garfield, why are you arguing a point that that has nothing to do with the discussion? So two of us talking by each other back and forth. But here's another article. This was September 1898. Yet another American discovery. There's a young Negro Jew in New York whose name is Samuel Walcowski, 33 years of age. So ladies and gentlemen, he was 33 in 1898. So 1865 already passed. Juneteenth already passed. He wasn't here. Interesting. He's a native of Makamba in northeastern Egypt. He's a descendant of Eleazar, the servant of Abraham, whose family became a tribe for more than 2,500 years, have lived in seclusion. Their whereabouts are known to the Hebrews of Palestine and other countries. They eat kosher, and their vernacular is partly Hebrew and partly Yiddish. The latter they recently learned from white Jewish settlers. The older people only speak the language of the Bible. There are about 3,000 of these Negro Jews in Makamba. How they should have kept their presence a secret is not explained. Still, there's only one difficulty ahead with this story. The index of the best maps of Egypt know not such a place as Makamba. To say the least, further information is desirable. I'm telling you, listen, we could now, is this tonight knock on the Hebrew Israelites and say, you need to do better research? Yes, in a sense, but let's look at it carefully now. If this guy is 33 in 1898, he didn't, based off of that information alone, we know he didn't come over on a slave ship. He's saying he's a doctor or a lawyer. I think he said he's a lawyer in Egypt. He left his family there. So here it is right here. With tefillin on forehead and left arm. Okay, you know he's an Orthodox Jew. Head covered and wrapped in a tallis, Orthodox Jew. Orthodox among the Orthodox of an Essex Street, New York City congregation assembled on a morning of last week. A full-blooded Negro claiming to be an Israelite attracted general attention. Thoroughly familiar with the holy language. That's what Lashon Kodash means. It means the holy language. The history given of him is to be taken unquestioned. See that? We can't question that stuff. Here is his biography. His name is Samuel Walcowski, and he's the only Negro in the United States who is a Jew and one of the very few in the world. So listen to this now. In 1898 or 1897, he is what? The only Negro in the United States who is a Jew. Wow. That's a bad look for Hashar, because if you're trying to claim that you are the Israelites and these people are the Jews and he's a true Israelite, it's basically saying in one of the articles about this gentleman, he is the only Negro in the United States. And by the way, Negro is a code word for descendants of African slaves, or African descendants are called Negro, specifically Negro. Now, he's a Jew and one of the very few people in the world. He hails from Makamba, a settlement in the sparsely inhabited interior of northeastern Egypt. His wife is a Negro Jewess, and he has 2 living children, both girls and both black. His family is still in Egypt. So you see, he's not connected to the transatlantic slave trade at all. So this conversation is pretty much over. But I just wanted to point out something about this guy, how interesting he is, and how gullible we are to believe people who say that they're Jewish. We are very gullible. Walcowski's ancestors were slaves to the patriarchs, the father of the race being the head servant of Abraham's house. These slaves followed Jacob's son to Egypt 3,000 years ago, and when the Jews were delivered from Egypt's tyranny, they went with them across the Red Sea into the wilderness. They became converted. Hashar, guess what? His family lineage is a converted lineage. But anyway, like their white brethren, they keep the Sabbath on Saturday, beginning on Friday evening at sundown and all that stuff. So anyway, at the end it says, Wolkowski is a Hebrew scribe, and he came to this country to better his condition. Not as a slave, obviously. He wasn't a slave. Judah's redemption, I don't remember, bro. I don't remember. But this is not about me being right or wrong. It can be an Afro-Brazilian spot, Judah mentioned, because remember, he said it's in Egypt. And all the maps and all these things that people put out and have shows that there's no such place as, what I call it, Makamba. But this is another situation again. A full-blooded Negro Jew mute. Remember, in this situation, he's mute. So it seemed like he's going around playing this game that he's deaf and he's dumb. But how is it that he could read Hebrew and write it in another article? So he's going over all over the country doing this. Dr. Stern said, let me close out this article. Dr. Stern, look at this though. last night he called on Rabbi Stern again, and an unusual conversation took place with the aid of a pad and pencil, showing that he's mute. He's proven to Dr. Stern he's mute. So Walcowski writes German in Hebrew characters with remarkable accuracy and rapidity. In fact, Rabbi Stern admitted that he could excel him, Wolkowski, being so proficient because it is his language. Walcowski kept his hat on while in the rabbi's house, a custom with Orthodox Jews. Dr. Stern said that there were Negro Jews in both North and South Africa. Russian and Polish Jews had migrated to these points, and Negroes were converted again to the Jewish faith. Sometimes Negroes purchased by Jewish slave traders accepted Judaism, and after circumcision were given their freedom, a full-fledged Orthodox Jew. But again, remember, he didn't come over as a slave, so that wouldn't apply to him. So Rabbi Stern is off. The last article, hold on, should this be the last article? Dark-skinned foreign traces his ancestry back to Moses. So there's another article about him in the Nashville, Tennessee. And in this article, Samuel Walcowski, who is in Nashville at present, has a black skin and yet is a Jew, tracing his lineage back to Moses. He was born at Makamba, Egypt, 17 African miles from the spot where Moses was born. He lives there when at home, is a lawyer, has a wife and 3 children. So it's not 2 children anymore. It's 3 children who are there at this time. He came to America, in his own words, for personal betterment, and is a scribe of the Jewish sect Bani Masharum. So you see, now he's writing, he's talking, he's not talking, he's deaf. So all these claims is being made by this guy. But one thing though, he definitely knows Hebrew. He definitely does. But his story seems suspicious. It does seem suspect. He said, I am 34 years of age, have a wife and 3 children, all of whom observe the Jewish religion and have the dark skin of the Orient. I came to America last December via Singapore and Liverpool to Boston, and in that time have only met 4 of my countrymen. I am a Mason and Oddfellow on the Night of Pythias, and have traveled as far as Nashville on a Masonic order, receiving my last card from Zodak Lodge. So he was a Mason too? Oh man, he's a lot of things. Let's see what else. Right here, this talks about him being a part of the Masonic order and all that stuff. But this article here is from the Portland Daily Press, and it talks about a Negro who could talk Hebrew and who represented himself as an Egyptian Jew and worked a Hebrew citizen of Bangor for a small loan on the strength of his nationality. He was arrested and committed to jail for obtaining money under false pretenses. Who knows what this is about? But again, they're catching him outside. He was doing the damn thing. So, Ahmed Belton, peace and love to you. Now, a mute means he can't speak. It don't mean blind. But there's records that says he couldn't talk and he was deaf. He was deaf and dumb. He could read and write, yeah, but he couldn't talk. In some instances, he can't talk. Some instances, he can't talk. The story is just funny. It's just crazy. It's just something that we all need to look into. But the bottom line to it, this though, arguments lead. What's up, my brother? The bottom line is he did not come over on a slave ship, which is the conversation me and him started going back and forth of if he could speak Hebrew or not or what. That's dumb. That was dumb on his part. That was dumb on my part. If he's taking money on a false pretense, he's definitely a Jew. That is anti-Semitic, sir. So Samuel Wolkowski did not come off the slave ship, which is what the conversation was about. The issue now with the decree now, that man received America. The issue with the decree, he claimed that there was a decree by the Catholic Church or by the slave traders. I think he said by the Roman Catholic Church, there was a decree that the black Israelites or the black Jews were supposed to be enslaved. And I think we were arguing about if any decree said that. I said I wasn't familiar with that. Priest Daniela jumped out the window and said, are you saying you read every decree? I'm not saying I read every decree, although I read a lot of decrees. I read a lot about decrees. Whichever way it is, I don't recall hearing that they were specifically saying that the blacks or the slaves in Africa were Israelites or Jews, and we're going to transport them. It's like they're trying to say it fulfilled Deuteronomy 28:68 or something to that effect. But anyway, if I misspeak, it's not on purpose. This happened over 7-8 years ago. All right. So check out this conversation. Mr. Wild himself, Hashar. We having a conversation years ago. This was courtesy, of course, of Sarnetta. So let's talk about it.
You can't be so shit. Hey, hold on. You can't be us. Now, Daniela, you next. Let's go. What decree do you know? You know the decree? I did the whole reason. You know every decree. You asking me what the decree is? Like, you know what? Yo, hold on. You know every decree.
Hold on a second. Let me grab this other video real quick. I want to show something. Real quick. Priest Daniela, of course, want to defend his boy to 100 degrees. But I want to show y'all something real quickly, because actually the day after it happened, I have a video of it.
Wrong with that. All right. Okay, you want to go into the 70-80 exile.
This was wild.
Hashar has refused to give us a decree. I love my God, but you can't be so shit. Hey, hold on. You can't be.
All right, so let me give you a little context, right? We weren't being recorded originally, but he was claiming that there was a decree or the Papa Bull, as the brother Indigenous Black Man points out. The decree was that the Black people, I don't recall 100%. I think this is the claim. I can be wrong, but I think the claim is that Black people that came over on the slave ships, the Roman Catholic had a decree basically saying that they were Israelites or Jews, and they were specifically targeted because they were Israelites or Jews. I think that's what the conversation was about. I can be wrong. I'm sure somebody would say, no, that's not, but it was something to that effect. And that there was a decree, or one of the papal bulls actually stated that.
Let's go. What's the decree? Now, Daniela, you next. Let's go. What decree do you know? You know the decree? I did the whole reason. You know every decree. You asking me what the decree is? Like, you know what? Yo, hold on. You know every decree. I'm ready to chop some head. I'm ready to chop some head. So I'm going to tell you this right now. Check it out, right? I'm going to use the Chronicles of Zerari, right?
If you notice, the whole time Hashar is refusing to say he don't want to admit to anything, because if he does, he knows the Dagger Squad gonna eat him alive. And listen, family, we were hungry at this time. Dagger Squad was hungry, and we was hungry. We wanted to take on anybody, anytime. So when we came out there, Priest, he'll admit this, he was kind of drunk, because definitely he grabbed that mic and went in on Dr. York. He was definitely drunk that day. But watch this, family. When he started talking about the Zerara and Adahu, the Moor, and all that stuff, which Hashar probably knows about, he's like, oh my God. So why don't you tell us what decree is it? Because he put himself in a ringer that he couldn't get out. So look at what he started. He was just looking away to run. But watch this. This is what Garfield does, man. Nobody wants Garfield to be right. This is why the King James debate, I'm not worried about Priest Daniela bringing out pictures or statues or anything. I'm not worried about any information he's bringing out. I know King James is not a black man, and it's one of the craziest theories ever. But I would definitely want him to, I want to be on record so that the Israelites who watch could see another position on this issue. I don't disagree with him about the about sculptures and statues and what. I don't disagree with none of that. I look at everything in context. Maybe 5 years ago, I would have been a jump out the window or certain thing. But nowadays, I'm more chill. I'm more relaxed. All right. But I know for a fact King James is not a black man. I know that for a fact. There's nothing he can bring that day to because to win a debate, you know, for me to win, I gotta have Priest Daniela admit during the debate I am right. This makes a lot of sense. If I don't do that, it's an L for me. If he don't say, you know what, you provided that information, my brother, I'm gonna have to look into this, and I might have to change my position. If he don't say that, I ain't win that debate. I ain't win that debate. There's no way I'm debating anybody. You could bring your best scholar. I'm debating King James. I can't lose that debate. But if he don't say that, I'm gonna consider that an L. To me, I might win the debate, obviously, but if he don't say that during the debate, nah, bro. I got so many daggers for King James, bro, because, man. But anyway, check this out. So Rawborn is there. Look at this guy running away from the
That's the conquest of Guinea, right? Now, those Portuguese we talking about, you know who they was looking for? You know what they was looking for? What was they looking for? What was they looking for? Tell us what they was looking for. I'm going to tell you what they was looking for. They was looking for... Don't say it. He's acting like he knows.
If you notice, Rawborn basically asked him a question. Do you know what the Portuguese who came on the coast of West Africa, what were they looking for? He's like, oh my God. Now he's telling us to go to Maccabees TV. Why don't you just answer the question and stop running from the conversation? You see, these guys read. I ain't gonna front. I used to say they don't read, but they know a little something. I ain't gonna front. You know a little something. These guys, Hashar and Priest Daniela, Yawasap, these guys are willing to read. I don't think they read the right stuff most of the times, but they read stuff. But the point is, why don't you just answer Rawborn, Hashar? Why don't you answer Rawborn? You refuse to answer about the decrees. You're running from that. You're walking all over the place, making all type of noise, but don't refuse to answer the question.
You need a new set of Hebrews. You need a new set of Hebrews. Okay? These Hebrews BS. When people with intelligence and smart around, they ain't got no talk. When they get checked about sources, they ain't got none. We asking Hashar for 3 hours right now. Where is the decree? And he can't produce. Let's be real. Come on. Garfield can't.
Now he start clowning. We ain't clowning, bro. Look at me start running, doing the running man. Look at this.
Deals with Zion Lex shit. Oh, Zion Lex shot that nigga in the ankles, chopped his head off. You gotta give Zion Lex.
Look at him clowning now. Now we ask you for a decree. You bringing up Zion Lex, me and Zion Lex having a confrontation as far as information. Why don't you show us the decree that points out specifically that blacks or Israelites or Jews were targeted based off the papal bull for slavery? Where is that at? It don't exist. But guess what? You can't admit that on camera because you're going to look stupid and you're going to have golf, you're going to have a one-up on you. So we can't be honest.
We did a 2.5-hour presentation. He has put up false information that is not in the book where he says it's supposed to be. We can't talk to you until you tell us where that picture came from. Hey, Hebrews got a scripture where they say, prove all things. That's in Thessalonians. I want to know the decree. That's the shot. When have you ever seen a Sean Daniela run? Hold up. Let me do the running man. Where they at? We asked Hashar for 3 hours. Young man right here, where is the decree? He can't answer because what he does is he'll talk fast. No information. Garfield Dagger Squad, Rawborn Dagger Squad. Got my man from Moscow. We don't play that. We deal with sources. Daniela, you want to know every decree? prove all things. That's in Thessalonians. I want to know the decree. That's the shot.
When have you ever seen a Sean Daniela run? Hold up. Hold up. Let me do the running back. Where they at? Where they at? We asked Hashar for.
When have you ever seen Hashar, the so-called general of AOC, run? He ran so fast. He ran so fast, family, because there was no decree. Hey Philip, I'm just baiting him up. That's all. That's us debate talk. Don't pay that no mind. But ladies and gentlemen, when have you ever seen Hashar run from a conversation? He ran from what Rawbon asked. He ran from what Garfield asked because somebody decided to fact check him on the spot. And I was in his face. Because remember the comment he said earlier, well, I had to step out the room because you know I'm a different type of nigga. Da-da-da. So why weren't you a different type of N-word at this point? You see, when you're in somebody's face, and Hashar is short, he's like 5'7". So he's short, 5'2", 5. All these guys are these big mouths. Katazar, Hashar, these big mouth guys, light-skinned guys. Always the light-skinned guys. Never Priest Daniela and the dark-skinned guys. Always the light-skinned guys. But, bruh, what decree you talking about? I'm going to have me some fun. Check this out.
3 hours. Young man right here, where is the decree? He can't answer because what he does is he'll talk fast. No information. Garfield, Dagger Squad, Rob on Dagger Squad. Got my man from Moscow. We don't play that. We deal with sources. Daniela, you want to know every decree? No. That's what you know.
And that's my man from Lines of Israel. Do I know every decree? That's not the point. The point is, my brother, is not if I know every decree by heart. I have never read a papal bull that states that black people were taken from West Africa because the Roman Catholics knew they were Jews or knew they were Israelites. I've never heard it. I think, if I remember correctly, that's what the argument was. He said that a decree exists, and it don't exist. There's no such decree.
No information. Garfield, Dagger Squad, Rob on Dagger Squad. Got my man from Moscow. We don't play that. That's what Hashar said. So you want to know what decree? My man, by the way. Just Garfield's my man. Jamaican law. No, Garfield is my man. You know you my man. You already know you my man, man. Ain't no hate here. I know that. Just because he's asking what the creed is don't mean he know what the fucking the creed is. It means he's asking he don't fucking know what the creed is. That's the reason why he's fucking asking. That's what okay. That Hashar, let me talk calmly. Hashar, this is my man, by the way. Just Garfield's my man. Jamaican law. But listen, he asked for a decree. He said there's a decree by the Pope to designate particularly the people who they were going to enslave. That's what Hashar said. So we want to know what decree is that and when it is. Now, when we ask him about time, you start talking about if he banged a woman today, or what 1, 2, 3 got break. Hashar ask him what the creed is don't mean he know what the fucking the creed is. It means he's asking.
Now, Priest Daniela, I already stated that I've never heard or read a decree where the Pope designated the people that he's going to enslave because they were Israelites or Jews or something to that effect.
That's because you don't fucking know what the creed is. That's the reason why he's fucking asking. That's what okay. That Hashar, let me talk calmly. Hashar, this is my man, by the way. Just Garfield's my man. Jamaican law. But listen, he asked for a decree. He said there's a decree by the Pope to designate particularly the people who they were going to enslave. That's what Hashar said. So we want to know what decree is that and when it is. Now, when we ask him about time, that's what That's what Hashar said. There's a decree by the Pope to designate particularly the people who they were going to enslave. That's what Hashar said.
So we want to know what decree is that and when it is. Now, when we ask him about time, he start talking about if he banged a woman today or what 1, 2, 3 got there. Hashar is running. You don't BS around Garfield, man. You know that, Daniela.
Are you asking that because you're saying emphatically doesn't exist or because you don't know?
I've read all. Hold on.
Are you asking?
No.
No. Let's not.
No. Hold on.
All right, family. All right. Let me look into some stuff that they got here.
Yeah, that was a very interesting conversation. Very interesting, ladies and gentlemen. Very interesting. But it's almost an hour. And of course, Priest said, who said that? Yeah, that's what your man Hashar said. They still haven't provided a source. It's been over 7 years. And they still ain't find nobody come off the slave ship that's a Jew, Israelite, or Hebrew. So, ladies and gentlemen, peace and love to y'all, man. And it's all love as usual, man. So check me out next week. I'm going to get in some memes, but I had to address the Samuel Wolkowski. The issue is not, the issue is kind of weird because in some sources he is dumb. In some sources he can read. He's reading. He's literally reading to the people. So he's not dumb as in a mute. So in some instances they said he's deaf and dumb. And then his story changes between Abyssinia and Egypt. Then he said it come from Makamba, 3,000 people there. Then in Ethiopia, it's 45,000. And I think that's why Hashar got mixed up. This article says 3,000. And why this article says 45. But anyway, peace and love to y'all. I'm out of here, man. Enjoy y'all day. Enjoy y'all Sabbath if y'all celebrate that. Shalom to y'all. Peace and love to the family. And I'm out. Peace.